Hello. This is the first show after Christmas. It's the 27th of December. I'd like to thank you for listening. If you are listening, well, if you're not listening, you can just ignore that. This is Jim the Keys bartender coming to you from a chilly for the Florida Keys, Key Largo. We're experiencing temperatures in the 50s, and that is when people break out the parkas and the gloves and the hats and things like that. I'd like to say a special hello to Alicia and Jeff, a young couple from Joliet, Illinois, who stopped in to catch last night. I have to ask their forgiveness because I didn't find out. I mentioned I was a notary and that notaries can perform weddings in the Florida Keys. In Florida, notaries can perform weddings. And she said, "Oh, that means you can marry us." And so I didn't know if that meant that they were engaged or just dating. So, Jeff, if you are going to propose, I'll be happy to perform the ceremony for you guys for free if you come back down here and do it, because it has to be in Florida. That's the deal. And I promised Jeff and Alicia and Jeff, that I would give them recommendations and I would put it in the podcast before, and have it up by 11 o'clock today. And it looks like, as I'm recording this, I'll have this ready right at around 11 o'clock. And this is the last episode 361, prior to my surgery. I hope that we'll be able to do an episode when I get home on Tuesday or Wednesday. There could be just minor side effects where, side of my face is somewhat paralyzed because where they are removing the mass from my parotid gland is right next to nerves that control my face. So we'll find out how that is affected. If there's some temporary paralysis, there's a small chance it could be a little more than that. But I am not dwelling upon that. Right? So we will go on either way. And I just want to, I hope Alicia and Jeff are probably up right now, because checkup time is usually 10 o'clock or 11 p.m. And they're probably downloading some of my podcast right now. And I hope they're not disappointed. So we have, I told them that I recommend places for them to go. And there are some excellent places on the way down. And I would recommend to you, while you're listening to this, that you guys, while you're driving down, to alternate your driving. One of you, before you get to 7 Mile Bridge, because the 7 Mile Bridge is probably the most distracting part of the drive, and it's best to, and maybe with the beautiful weather we're going to have today, it's going to be going up to the mid-70s, lower to mid-70s. It's going to be gorgeous. When you're going over the 7 Mile Bridge, as a driver, it's incredible, but you really can't take it all in. You got the 7 Mile Bridge, you got the Atlantic on the left side. On the right side, you got Florida Bay. And it's just incredible. So I would suggest one of you take it in, drive through the 7 Mile Bridge when you come up to it, and the other return on the return back. Before you get on the 7 Mile Bridge, one of the best places to stop, I think, if you're one of these people to stop for one drink, is the Sunset Grill in Marathon, right before you leave Marathon. It's beautiful. It's right there on the Atlantic side, so you have to cross the road. And there's going to be a decent amount of traffic going south today, so you want to just take your time, take it all in while you're going. But as you go there, get a couple shots, pictures. We're not encouraging people to drink and drive, but as most people are right to have one drink and continue. So when you get down to Key West, they are staying at a nice, I forget the name, I think they're staying at the Palm. I should guess maybe I shouldn't say that, but there's not going to be that many people listening down in Key West. And when you at 2 p.m. when you're down there and you're all settled in, and if you get there before the check-in time, you can always go, if you have your bathing suits handy, you can go to Dante's in Key West, and it's a pool bar. It's a bar with a pool, and they have big restrooms. You go and change your clothes. You can go and swim in their pool. Best to go early, get it in there. If you can, you're from Illinois, you probably can handle or just lounge by the pool and have a couple drinks, and then you can make your way to wherever you're staying. And then at 2 p.m., the smallest bar on Duval Street, it's on Duval Street, right next to the Hog's Breath Inn, which is a stalwart of Key West. You go in there, they have it's a inside, outside, mostly outside. They got a big tiki bar. It's very popular with the motorcycle crowd there, and you can enjoy your drinks. If you go to the smallest bar, usually Dick's James, and that's D-I-X, James is the bartender there. It's about a 6-foot wide bar. You can handle about 8 to 10 people in there at most. But that's always a good place to have a drink or two while you're on Duval Street. And then you work your way over to Hog's Breath Bar. And then right around there, the nice thing, I don't have to give directions for it because it's all on or right off Duval Street. Then you have Margaritaville for the people that are into that stuff. It's a bigger venue, but you got smaller ones like Captain Tony's, where if you go into Captain Tony's, you'll see there's a skeleton behind the bar. There's dollar bills attached to the ceiling and all that. Usually, I imagine, even today, they'll have a live musician playing, a guitar player off to the side. But it really has that Keys ambiance in there, as well as the Hog's Breath does too. And if you want to be a little more adventurous, you can go to the Black Bull, which is, I think it's right in the center of Duval Street. When you go up there and you go to Black Bull, but it's a 3-story building. And if you go right up to the roof, there's a rooftop bar called the Garden of Eden. And it's a clothing optional bar. And I imagine that with the temperature the way it is probably not really a popular thing to go with the least amount of clothing. But when it gets into the mid-70s, I imagine around 2 or 3 o'clock, you probably could have a couple people there. And if you're sitting at the bar, you may get an eyeful. It's not always, just when you hear people hear nudity, some people brings up kind of imagery of good nudity, but there's not always good nudity. Not everybody should be nude. I hate to say that. So be prepared when you go up there. Now, while you're down there, also there's Schooner Wharf, and that's right at the end. Schooner of I think it's just look for it right there. There's Schooner Wharf. It's a big tiki bar there in Key West, right at a marina near the Coast Guard base, I think. If you remember, I'm not really, because everything's on Duval Street. It really doesn't matter. At most, you'll be less than a half a mile away from any of these places. And at sunset, you have to find your way to Mallory Square, because they used to have, and I imagine they still do, have some street performers at sunset. And you got to be careful. There are city ordinances right now about wearing your facial coverings, so you want to make sure you do that. But there's going to be a lot of places to see while you're down there. I was surprised to hear from some of the people that came in. There was other people that came in after Jeff and Alicia. There was 2 other couples. One not so talkative, and the other one a little more so. They were from the Sarasota area, and they were friendly, and they were telling us some of the prices they had. It seems like whenever we hit high season, and this is high season for the week between Christmas and New Year's, the prices on lodging go through the roof. And it's like a double whammy. You got the pandemic, you have a certain amount of people that are staying away, and a certain amount of people that decide that they really would rather, they don't think it's a risk, or they may think it's a worthwhile risk. But the prices are still there. It's still priced like there is no pandemic. And you figure they're trying to make it all back this week. And I think there's going to be, there's probably going to still be some decent capacity right now in all the keys. If you like to make your last minute. And the people from Sarasota that came in, Sarasota, Bradenton area, they decided as of, I think it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday, they were either going to go to St. Augustine, they were going to go north, or they were going to go south. And then they were looking at the temperature, and the temperature today in St. Augustine was in the mid-30s, I think, when they woke up. So they decided to head south to warmer climes. And it will be in the mid-70s tomorrow, so it's going to be beautiful. They made the right choice, but like I said, I never really understand. I understand that it's not only a business decision, but in order, if you had the prices, if you did not adjust the prices, then everything would be. Because sometimes you have to drop the prices in order to encourage people, as it would have been. The prices would have been drastically lower last week. Prior to, it would have been, about 50% lower in a lot of places. The people from Bradenton said they were looking at a lot of hotels, and there were very few hotels or motels that were available at $300 a night. And as some people say, if you want to, paradise isn't cheap. So, but paradise could be less expensive if you decide not to go during peak time. So you got to be mindful of all those things. So if you come down now, there's going to be some availability, and I think some of the availability is going to be brought on by that. So there's going to be a lot of interesting things down there to see. I don't know what they're going to be doing on New Year's Eve. I don't know if sushi is he's going to be coming down in a big high heel shoe, and that's the Key West version of the ball dropping on Times Square. I mean, someone insisted that was if I know the community down there that celebrates New Year's Eve, I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like that. I don't think they're going to have a formal celebration, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of people out there doing it. I wouldn't be surprised if they did some kind of informal dropping of the shoe at midnight. Also, I forgot, there's a couple things I did forget. There's a friend of mine, Alicia and Jeff, when you're down there, there's Key West Smugglers tasting room. Just look for that. And the proprietor is James Martin. Tell him that Jim the Keys bartender sent you. That's a nice place to stop if you like bourbon. We did a couple shows there. We did a show from Irish Kevin's with Kevin, and the manager there, I forget the name of the manager. I don't have the book right here, but they have a lovely group of people in there. It's usually I mean, this year may not be as much, but it was usually some very, very boisterous crowd when you go in there. Very fun. Kevin performs himself there. So I think you're going to be in a really great place at a great time right now. If for breakfast, there's a place that I've always enjoyed. It was Bagatelle, and that's that's across the street from the Hog's Breath and the Smallest bar, across from the Ripley's Believe It or Not. And just to answer that question, or that choice of Ripley's Believe It or Not, just don't believe it, because it's just a scam. It's mainly for little kids. But there's also the Mel Fisher Museum. I don't know if they have the display up there. They used to have a really nice display when you go into the museum that shows all the treasures that treasure hunters have found, and Mel Fisher's diving group found. There was a gold bar in a display case where it was just enough room where you could put your hand in there. And my buddy Gary, Tom, and his brother Ed, we went down one year, and Gary was sure there was a way, if you held it right, you could get the gold bar out. And I think a couple of years ago someone did get the gold bar out. It was actually stolen. It wasn't one of those games where they're challenging you to get it out. It was just so you could pick up a big gold bar that was worth, I don't know, tens of thousands of dollars. I guess it became too much of a, if you tell someone here's a gold bar you can pick up with your hands, and I mean, it could have been worth $100,000, whatever it is, but you give someone a choice to do that. Now you can't really, I guess that would be, even if they did have that set up right now, that probably wouldn't be something they would frown upon, having hundreds of people coming into a room and handling a gold bar or handling anything. It's like, hey, touch this, It's like having a giant lollipop and having people come in, and you're allowed to come up and take one lick of the lollipop. I don't think that would be a good idea right now. But you have that. There's a whole bunch of things you could do. You could take the trolley around. That's more things. If you have little kids or senior citizens, you can hop in and hop off that stuff. You have the pedicabs to come in if you want to go anywhere at the amazing speed of 2 miles per hour and watch people go past you, walk past you as they stroll by their drinks. There used to be, and you won't see that as much, there used to be a big influx of people in the middle of the day when the cruise ships would come in the midweek. And my friend at the smallest bar, he always said that was the time they, especially off season, when they would open up early in order to engage the cruise ship crowd. They don't have that as much, so now that people come, Duval Street is, but it's still busy. I've seen pictures of it. It's still busy, and it's still beautiful to go down there and just stroll down there without care in the world. You just stop and I don't know exactly what the open container laws are, because they seem to be pretty lax. I know that you could stroll down Duval Street. There's always there's a lot of kiosks there where they sell day trips to either snorkeling or fun trips where you could go to a jet ski. There was a big, I think it was Fury was the name of the group, where you go on this big tourist boat, and they have jet skis, and they have the jet boots, and they have the banana boat rides where the big floating banana, where you jump in there, you can snorkel off there, and there's all these activities on this one boat, and they give you cocktails and stuff like that, and you go out for a couple hours. I don't know how that would be right now with it, but the water temperature would be pleasantly warm for someone, especially from someone from the up north, where this time of year the water's up north probably hovering around freezing. It would be around 75 degrees the water would be right now. So it's actually be a little warmer in the water than it would be out of the water. And also, as you walk down Duval Street, you can find the kiosks that sell cigars and things. I used to love that, just be able to buy a cigar, but I am not. So I gave up smoking more than a couple of years ago, and I think I would be afraid to pick one up right now to trigger the nicotine dependencies again. There's tons of things to do down there. Most of it involves drinking. So if you do have a penchant for that, and there is also, you'll find I mentioned on previous podcasts, there's an intravenous, I should mention this for my friend, I'll do it on another one. They have their intravenous supplements where they give you the supplements after a hard day drinking the next day for rejuvenation. Supposedly it's good for people that are feeling tired and want to beef up their energy and immune system, but it's also supposedly a good remedy for people that tend to overdo it when it comes to partying. And that seems to be like right on Duval Street. You think that would be something that happens right in that area really heavily. And there are things for people that don't. There's the butterfly gardens, the butterfly observatory. There's some nice beaches down there. You go to some beautiful beach bars and things like that. So Alicia and Jeff, I hope you enjoy yourself down there. Now when it comes tomorrow, when I wake up after midnight today, I'm on a total abstinence when it comes to drinking or eating anything. Yeah, that's something new. I don't remember that before. I remember it was like coffee, don't eat anything. I didn't know about the water thing, though, but they was like no water or that. So I'm not going to do any coffee after, I guess, noon today, and just go on straight water to get my body fully hydrated, and probably up to 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. And I'm supposed to eat some protein, they said, because that'll sustain me through the day. And my surgery's at 4:30 in the afternoon. Earlier in the week, on the 22nd, I got a call from the hospital, and the nurse called me and said, come down and be here at 1 o'clock. And because the surgery was originally scheduled for 4:30, and I thought 1 o'clock, that's great. That means it's going to be about an hour and a half earlier. And she said, because there's a lot of cancellations. Excuse me. But then on Christmas Eve, I got a phone call that it's back to 4:30. And I didn't think that there was a possibility if someone had canceled their surgery or moved their surgery and mine got moved up, that mine would be moved back. But I guess that is the case. And some people say, oh boy, that's late in the day to have a surgery. I really don't care. I don't know if I want to be the first one of the day, but I certainly don't want to be the last one of the day. I'm hoping he doesn't have 9 hours of surgeries going on there, and I don't want to be the 9th one after all that intensity. So, and that's the plan. I go in there, and then I go into recovery Monday night for observation, and they bring me, I'm supposed to be checked out on Tuesday. And on Tuesday, if I have everything set, I may be, whenever the first opportunity I can get a cell phone in hand after I call my family, which I better do first before I do a podcast, because that would be crazy. I would get in a lot of trouble if I didn't do that. But I would expect to get in a lot of trouble, because that's callous for me to do a podcast without talking to my family first. But you'll be the second or third person, I will inform. And I'll see how my mouth is working. If there's just going to be like one side of it, kind of like I'll be like Ratso in Midnight Cowboy when he starts on the bus when he's riding with John Voight, Dustin Hoffman, John Voight, they're riding out of New York City or in a bus, and Ratso's face is kind of like paralyzed and stuff. I think that's the way I remember it. But hopefully I'll be able to do that, and hopefully you guys will hear from me then. Otherwise it'll be on Wednesday or Thursday, depending on that. I'd like to thank all the well-wishers and people who have been sending me their thoughts and prayers, and I will be back early next week. That's my intention, to be back early next week, and I hope that my new friends Alicia and Jeff have a great time in Key West. Stay away from, I don't think those guys are still there, but there's a last word of advice. There used to be a soap cosmetic place on Duval Street, and some kind of, they sound like he may have some kind of Eastern European or Middle Eastern accent, young fellas, and they try to coax you in with little bars of soap and stuff like that. I think they're gone, especially since the pandemic. But if they do reappear, do not go in their store. So what happens is they'll try to coax you in with $20 or $30 beauty products, and what they end up doing is trying to sell you a couple $100 worth. And once they get your credit information, they do whatever they want. So there's one scam to watch out for down there. Otherwise, most people are pretty much square dealers down there. Well, thank you for listening. If you are an avid listener before the New Year's, please share the show with your friends. Like us on Facebook. Send us an email at jim@keysbartender.com if you have any questions or ideas for a show. Thank you very much and have a great day.